Back here in his Monday spot, the host of the Green Light Podcast, where all podcasts are acquired, two-time Super Bowl champion Chris Long, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Chris?
What's up, my guy? How are you?
I am doing well. I got to tell you, didn't get much cardio in until I watched the Chiefs last night. That got my heart race going. What do you think of when you watch an offense operate like that against the number one scoring defense like they did on Sunday night, Chris?
Well, I think, this is the team that I counted them 603 days ago or whatever it was, Super Bowl. Patrick's been waiting to play this team and, waiting to have an offensive line to roll out when they do play this team. And, Shaq Barrett had talked about how they were going to have a big game on the edge and that sort of thing. Like, I don't know if that was the right thing to do. Patrick Mahomes seems like a grudge-holding guy, doesn't he? And a guy that could not wait to play Tom Brady again. I mean, obviously he loves and respects that guy, but nobody wants to win more than Patrick Mahomes. And to do it the way they did it, first off, you don't spot the Chiefs 7 points like that on special teams. So as soon as that happened, you felt pretty good about them dictating in terms of game. But they're able to run the ball. Edwards-Helaire is running hard. I think a little competition is good for him. And throwing the ball to a bunch of guys that, quite frankly, some of them you hadn't really heard of before this year. And Juju Smith-Schuster's doing a really good job. Travis Kelce's automatic. You saw that right away in the red zone. But a ton of targets that you just – and really for Brady too. Like a bunch of guys catching balls that you're like, who is this guy? The difference is it's just working a lot more seamlessly for the Chiefs and their guys up front, 1 through 5, playing real well. I mean, they've retooled pretty quickly. I mean, they lost a couple of their guys off that Super Bowl run and kind of had to reshuffle. There's a lot of new faces, but they're playing well up front.
Well, I mean, you look at all of the different people, as you mentioned, who did contribute for the Chiefs yesterday, and Isaiah Pacheco, their 7th-round pick out of Rutgers, looking like Zeke Elliott sometimes. He was big.
Bill Belichick's got to be pissed, man. He likes those Rutgers guys.
I know he's calling up Shiana. He's like, how the hell did we miss this guy? And I'm sure he's using we. But so when you put it all together, you're always attuned to the narrative that the Chiefs missed Tyreek Hill in the last 2 weeks. Supposedly were exhibits A and B about that, and then we see last night. So is this the Chiefs offense you think we're going to see more often than not the rest of the year, even getting better?
I don't want to overreact. I mean, just a week ago, they lost to the Colts. So, we do this through the first month of the season. We ride these ebbs and flows, and, week one they go out and just they dominate the Cards. And, people who are adept realize that that's not like a big deal by their standards. They have some dips in production over the next couple weeks, and then they look great last night. I think this is going to be a work in progress, but the top-end speed of this offense, and I mean that like metaphorically, like what they can get to as an offense and the type of points they can put up. When they're humming, their top-end speed is still the same. They just get to it a different way. And when you look at Tyreek, I mean, I think a big difference that he would make is you can get a lot of more jet sweeps, explosives in the run game. Those big explosive plays in the run game, honestly, I think ironically are what they've been missing a little bit without him. So, Andy Reid led a top 5 offense with Alex Smith. That's not a slight, against Alex Smith, who I really respect, but like he's not Patrick Mahomes. And we know what the problem is. We've had an entire offseason or part of an off season to diagnose it and make the situation better. So I think Andy Reid's plenty smart enough to do that.
So then on the flip side, your former Super Bowl teammate, Tommy, what do you think when he's waking up and he looks at the ceiling for the first time, other than wondering, what smoothie he's going to have for breakfast? Yeah. What do you think he's thinking this morning?
I don't think he's thinking like get me out of here, but I do think that the difference in what he had just 2 years ago in the game I talked about and now is striking, the difference in the roster quality offensively. I mean, I know that we've talked about this. They've added some pieces, veteran pieces. You get Godwin back, that sort of thing, Gage, but it showed up again and again over these first couple games. You know, Mike Evans can't do everything himself, and he's an incredible ball player. But, you know, you got to have other guys that you can go to and who are going to be healthy. You know, Julio was a great addition, but can Julio stay healthy? You know, Gage was limping around last night a little bit. Godwin was limping around. I mean, he's coming off an ACL. We've talked about, you know, Brate's a good player. They've still got tight ends that can get involved in the pass game, but you don't have Gronk and the middle of that offensive line, man. So, I mean, if you're Brady, I mean, you saw it on the Snead strip sack last night. He's on the sideline, and I'm reading his lips, and he's saying, and he's open, and we got this guy open. Like, it's just a frustrating time for him. You know, like I feel like in his competitive mind, he feels like we can still be great if we're perfect. And he likes to pursue that perfection, but it's going to be hard with this team, man. And, you know, I had the under win total on the Bucs.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I can't say that the struggles offensively surprised me. Defensively, though, they have to play better than that, because the only way that they're going to make a deep playoff run is going to be winning those games, you know, 24-20, you know, 27-24, something like that. Like, those are the types of ball games they're going to have to be in with these high-powered offenses. They can't let Patrick Mahomes kick the door down and expect to win a shootout.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. So many different ways to go with you on the Ravens and Bills game, but I'll go with you through this door. Marcus Peters being very upset with John Harbaugh after Harbaugh went for it on 4th and goal rather than kicking a field goal and leaving it up to the defense. What did you think of when you saw that, Chris Long?
I'm fine with it. I haven't really checked the temperature of the room to see what most people are thinking, but I think the ease with which they moved the ball down the field, the Bills, that is, and they slowed down to kick that field goal, but they would have scored a touchdown. And if you've watched the Ravens play this year, you know that secondary's had trouble when somebody's in 2 minutes. And we saw it with Miami, that sort of thing. I mean, they were in 2 minute pretty much the whole second, not 2 minute, but you're in softer coverage. You have to defend the team that's got a lot of ground to make up. And the Bills went down and were in position to score a touchdown pretty quick. So I got no problem with it. I think if they make that play, everybody says what a genius Harbaugh is. Everybody's rolling the B-roll of him, you know, letting Lamar make the decision. That's the way things go. The only problem I have with it, and we saw this in the Miami-Buffalo game a week or two ago, is when Buffalo kind of laid up a little bit to ensure that Miami didn't have a ton of time, but tried to score a touchdown, you ended up with the butt punt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want out of a 4th and goal to go, right? If you don't get it, I would have felt great, even with the struggles that Baltimore's had defensively, if they'd have got stopped on the 1. So a lot of people are talking about, hey, Lamar, you know, he wants that throw back. No, he doesn't. He has to throw that ball. You know, like, the only thing I wish is that it wasn't picked for a touchback. You know, unless somebody was wide open that play, I think it's ridiculous to put that on Lamar. Like, you call that play, and Poyer made a great play. He was on the end in the word Ravens in the end zone. I mean, he was turned around on the end, facing the other way, pivots, comes back, and makes a great play. Second pick of the game, somebody they're really happy to have back. So I have no problem with that. And I think the play of the game for the Ravens, or for the Bills, rather, was blowing up that second down play. You know, first they knock it down at the 1 or the 2 and give themselves a chance to put up a goal line stand. That second down play, number 93 doesn't get enough credit. He gets so little credit that I've yet to learn his name today. But Milano got all of the credit on that TFL. He played great. Edmonds was really active in the second half. But this kid swims a tackle, blows up Ricard, and the puller that's supposed to come from Milano. And that's the type of stuff that can kill a low red zone possession, and it did. So that was a huge goal line stand. The only throw Lamar wants back is the 3rd and 7 to Mark, or not the 3rd and 7 to Mark Andrews. In the red zone, they're up 14-3 early in the game. They get Andrews in the corner, and he's open, and Lamar goes out of the back of the end zone. They go up 21-3 there. I don't know. You know, I don't know if Buffalo can get back in that game. So that was probably the one throw he really wants back. I thought Lamar played fine, man.
Well, I mean,
think the Ravens have to learn how to close out games. They get Dobbins back, so we'll see.
Well, he got he had a rush in his face, so he didn't see the wide open receiver on that 4th and goal. And you're right. Like, had that been a touchdown, we'd be talking about what a genius John Harbaugh is, in the same way that we're talking about what a genius Brian Daboll was to go for 2 in week 1. And look at the Giants, right? They're 3-1 right now. It totally changed everything. But, I think some Ravens fans would say that the game, the play that changed everything was the roughing the passer call on Brandon Stevens.
Yeah, that was a bad call.
That was terrible. And I mean, like, these things should be reviewable, I think. Certainly, 345 Park Avenue in the NFL officiating center should be at least chiming in on that Hawkeye system. I don't know if that's allowable yet. Like, the competition committee hasn't reached that. But I mean, I'm sure you've been a recipient of those flags before. It's terrible. It's just absolutely terrible.
3rd and 15. I think it's 3rd and 15 if that call isn't made. So, at the very least, they're going to get another chance. The Ravens are, I would think. Now, Josh could have converted, and that could have been all throw. Right. But I don't know. I think they have to be able to review that. I tend to agree with you. If they can review that without slowing the game down, because some of these are so obvious. Some of these are so obvious to me that if there's somebody watching a tight shot of the game, before you can announce what the penalty is, you can pick it up.
Yeah, no, they're also doing that. Chris, they're also doing that for change of possession. Ruling on the field that was a fumble suddenly isn't, 2nd down. Yeah. And you're like, what? And you're like, yeah, because they reviewed it in the interim. Like, they can be that quick, and I think they should do that for roughing the passer. I mean, what's like the most frustrating, what's that conversation like between you and the official after a moment like that? I mean,
well, it's so frustrating because there's nothing you can say to him because it's so final, and you're almost like, just wait and see, man. Like, just wait and see, and you want to be there when he watches it. You want to see how he screwed the game up. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be over his shoulder in that little tiny TV that he goes to watch these replays, so you can tell him to his face that he blew the game for your team. But this is a reality. Like, passers are going to be protected. And they're definitely going to be protected in the wake of everything we've seen with the head injuries earlier this year and Tua and that sort of thing. So, it's part of the deal, but I wish they had a mechanism, Rich. I agree.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few minutes left with the Green Light podcast host here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's going on in the Steelers locker room right now, do you think, with Trubisky getting benched and Pickett came in, threw an interception, but definitely gave the burst? What do you think is going on in that locker room right now?
Well, I think they're rolling with the punches, man. I think this is a team that has some talented players, and I think the frustrating thing is, for whatever reason with Mitch, it just didn't feel like they got up to top speed. And I think they didn't help this kid with some of the drops over the last couple of weeks, but they're just not explosive with the guy. And it's not like Pickett's going to be, 50 yards down the field all game. There's going to be a lot of dinking and dunking. But, the first pass, he goes out there and tries to wing it. And I think it's reasonable to say that wasn't a terrible throw and maybe shouldn't have been intercepted. You make a little bit more competitive play on the football. I think he could give them a spark. I was wrong. I thought Trubisky would be able to hold on longer in Pittsburgh. But you can't. I'm not saying you can't go back now, but it's really hard to go back. And I know B Flow's on that staff up there, and maybe he's in Tomlin's ear, and he's like, hey, I've done the 2 quarterback thing before. But there's no Ryan Fitzpatrick on this team. There's nobody who's got the top end kind of production of a Ryan Fitzpatrick. You've kind of got 2 game managers. One's younger and has a higher ceiling, so it seems.
And then Jerry Jones said to Cooper Rush, hey, put a quarterback controversy on my plate. He's now 3-0. I still don't think that there's a quarterback controversy there, but no. What do you think?
I mean, I could be wrong. I can only tell you what I'd do if I was Jerry. I'd give the guy that's been wildly productive for you and been through a lot, a chance to come back and show that he can match Cooper Rush's production. And really, it's not even about Cooper Rush's production. It's just about winning games. It's about the rest of the team playing well And we always talk about this when a backup comes in the game, people elevate their level of play. It's like without even knowing it. People overcompensate for each other. Offense is overcompensating for defense. The offensive line's blocking a little bit better. Defense is playing a little tighter because, maybe you don't have that explosive offense. Another thing is the Cowboys are getting healthier outside, right? So when Dak gets back, I hope they give him, a fair shake here. I don't know why they wouldn't. You think there's a controversy in New England there?
What, the Zappy? The Zappy moment?
I'm joking.
No. Hey, man,
No.
If Mac Jones can't go next week, that's Zappy's gig, man. I think.
You think so? I think it's Hoyer's gig.
Come on. Come on.
What did you see? All right, so here's the deal. And by the way, I just wanted to shout out. I want to get to this game so I can shout out Rashawn Gary, your Michigan guy.
He was great, isn't he? I mean, that defense is no joke. Yeah.
He's playing his butt off. But Zappy, man, he sets so deep. His release is really long. The ball does take a second to get there. I'm not piling on the kid, but Brian Hoyer, they were efficient early in that game. It's not like Hoyer was thinking it up. I think Bill had a great game plan, and that was going down to the wire no matter what. So that was an interesting ball game. That was maybe the most interesting game yesterday for me. Bill just saying, hey, we're going big personnel like 20 times. Like, we're just going to run the ball obnoxiously, and we're going to see up it. And it did soften the Packers up a little bit, and they were able to hang in there. But
who's more soft than the Lions defense right now? That's next for them. Let's see a little Western Kentucky action against the defense that's given up 50. Let's roll. Come on.
So I feel bad there. We were just talking about this, man. Try to think back to the last team that was so prolific offensively and so bad defensively. I was thinking about the Saints in 2012. You remember when Spags was the DC in New Orleans, and obviously they put up big numbers, but that team ends up 7-9. And most of these teams that are real good in one area and real bad in the other, they end up kind of 7-9, or now it would be 7-10 or whatever, or 8-9. But that math is tough for me, But it's you end up in the middle, and I think for Detroit, if you had said at the beginning of the season this is going to be a just under 500 team, you would have said like they're taking great steps, right? But I think the tough thing is that Dan and the Lions showed us that they're actually pretty capable. And so now we want more, right? And I think that's tough for them, man. They've played themselves into a situation where their standard is higher than it's been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
7-10, 8-9 Detroit Lions would have sounded pretty palatable to somebody living in Detroit this year, but not the way they're losing these games, man. It's frustrating. Getting 45 points out of a Jared Goff-led offense. Like, they're legit offensively with a bunch of guys down yesterday.
Last one for you, Chris Long. Last one for you. What'd you think when you saw Jason Kelce ask Doug Pederson for his rain jacket or his a jersey slicker exchange?
Yeah.
What'd you think of that one?
That warmed my heart, Rich. Knowing what those, what we all went through that year, and just kind of the effect that Doug had on our team, and you can see it. You can see the effect he's had on Jacksonville. And they jumped Philly yesterday. They just couldn't finish. The turnover stuff dried up for them. It actually went the other way. So, but Doug coming back home, I was there, Rich. I was at the game, and I got to see Doug briefly, and kind of like the reception he got. Really rainy, nasty day in Philly yesterday. It was a gutsy win, but like seeing Doug getting hugs from all the players, and it was awesome for a city that they're gonna boo you if they can. There's a lot of respect for that guy.
No question. You could see that, and you're right that Jacksonville came in and jumped him, but they also jammed 200 rushing yards down one of the best stout young defensive lines front sevens. I mean, we're entering they're really legit realm for the Eagles right now. Wouldn't you agree?
They're really good. They're really good. They can beat you a lot of different ways, man. I mean, think about that. To go down 14-0 and it's raining like sideways, man. It was cold. It was rainy, and you're thinking, we got to throw the ball a little bit. But they just stuck to the game plan. And when you have an offensive line like that, man, I don't think those guys get enough credit. Lane Johnson not in the top 100 this year, for whatever that's worth. There's not a guy he can't block in the NFL. And, you know, not saying that this young kid, Trayvon Walker's, you know, a top 5 rusher in the NFL, but he did a really nice job on him yesterday. They had some injuries up front. I think Jordan left the game for a little bit at least. And so they just seem to – Jeff Stoutland is as good an offensive line coach as there is in the league, and they do a great job. They've flipped. The Eagles' window, I thought, was closed. Like, it was closed, Rich. Like, they changed quarterbacks. Like, the whole thing. The offensive line, a bunch of pieces changed. The personality of this team changed.
Coach changed.
And it's
everything.
It's open again, dude. And guess what? They got New Orleans' pick. Like, so – and that keeps getting better. I mean, this is a team that when you look at them on paper, you're like, Bradbury played well. Reddick played well. All these guys you bring in, Rich, that are new faces – you're looking at this team, they're kind of like a mini all-star team, and you're looking at them saying, like, there's no way this team's going to be good next year, right? They're not set up for the long haul. They've probably burned a bunch of draft capital, that sort of thing. They've stuck the landing on this thing. You know, so I'm really hats off to Howie Roseman.
All right, so who's on the pod this week, Chris?
So we're finally actually getting Von Miller tomorrow. So, you know, I don't like having people on after they lose.
I got you. So you're gonna you got it, because I was gonna say I noticed he didn't appear, but this is
there was a you sure you want to come on this week, man? And,
right.
You know, I don't like having people on after they lose. That sucks. I've been there a bunch of times. So hopefully on Wednesday you'll be hearing some Von Miller, and then you get Stanford Steve on Friday and that sort of thing, and just wrap the pod with Kyle. And my co-host Macon as well. So
Beautiful.
we're rolling.
Well, if you want, so you're great without a suggestion, but I'll give you one anyway. You should ask Von Miller if he's ever had a coach that came up to him after the game and said, "Look, we could have kicked the field goal, but it's a 4% better chance of winning if we get the touchdown," and see how that worked. If that's ever happened to Von Miller in his career, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. Marcus Peters was upset, but I didn't mind that decision.
No, I know. I just don't know if the math's going to help. Hey, look, if we kick the field goal, we got a 69.3% chance of winning. And then, I just don't know how that works.
But I don't know how analytics are great, but context matters, right?
Of course. No, and he knows the team. I got it.
Yeah. So,
Chris, thanks for the call, brother. As always, love having you on Mondays. Thank you.
Rich, appreciate you, man.
Right back at you, at Joel91 on Twitter, at La Flama Blanca 95 on IG. Of course, get the Greenlight podcast where all podcasts are acquired with Chris Long.